Chicken Soup for the Soul, reading number 11, is coming right up. Hello. How's everybody doing today? Influence, health, compassion, and gratitude. These are the four most powerful words that aren't as obvious as words like peace, love, and joy. The words that we speak and think are very powerful labels that we choose to place on ourselves and others. These labels have incredible power to shape our perceptions and our experiences. The words we choose can influence how we see ourselves and others. Words influence our emotional responses, and our emotions control everything that happens in our lives. The words we choose can even impact our physiological stress levels. You make a positive influence on others by using words that are encouraging to them when you're talking with them. And this brings more peace, love, and joy into your life and the world. So, encourage more. When you speak positive, encouraging words to one person, this could have a ripple effect that helps thousands of people. Words are powerful because they influence your behavior. And influencing people in a positive way gives us the best feelings on earth, because that's the reason why we're here. Your physical health is directly related to how good you feel. Dis-ease causes disease. So be encouraging to others and yourself. Focus on the good so you can have and give good health. Focus on what you want. The words we use can either limit or liberate us. Words have the power to shape our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Compassion has massive value in our life, in our lives, and the lives of others around us. It allows us to connect with others on a deeper level. Compassion allows us to understand their struggles and give them meaningful support. Compassion develops empathy, kindness, and understanding, creating a harmonious and supportive community. It can also have a very deep and meaningful impact on our own well-being, helping us develop a sense of inner peace and fulfillment. Gratitude has many benefits, including improved mental health, stronger relationships, and increased resilience. Having gratitude gives you strength. Practicing gratitude helps shift your focus to the good things in life. Gratitude is a powerful emotion that can bring people closer together and improve overall well-being. Appreciate and notice the good things in life, no matter how small. How do you have gratitude in your life? You can be thankful about anything. Every experience that you have has something good to it It's in there by design to help you. So focus on that. The stuff I'm saying here may or may not have a lot to do with the reading I'm about to do. It's all great information to help give you more inner peace and fulfillment in your life. And that's why I am here. That's what I'm doing here. I'm here to help you live better. I'm here to give you the truth, the truths in life as we know it on earth. That help you live better. Let's all live better lives. Be your own peace wizard, like my friend Merlin here. Oh, it's backwards. Merlin is my peace wizard. Well, it says peace wizard in there. Alright. I named him Merlin, this guy. My peace wizard. And on that note, I'm going to have a little sip of my peace water. You ever heard about how, you see, what's his name? Ishaki Yamamoto or whatever his name is? The guy from the movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? In that movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? It's a great movie where he talks about how when you put positive things on your water, then he examined it the next day, and the crystals were the water looked like the water molecules looked like beautiful snowflakes. When you put bad words like hate and death on the bottle or on the glass of water, when you looked at it under the microscope, it looked like mud. So this is my peace water. Cheers. Peace water on the peace machine. Peace. More peace, please. Okay, now here comes reading number 11 of Chicken Soup for the Soul. Record from audio recording, here we go. Chicken Soup for the Soul, reading number 11. Rick Little's Quest. Rick Little's Quest. At 5 a.m., Rick Little fell asleep at the wheel of his car, hurled over a 10-foot embankment, and crashed into a tree. He spent the next 6 months in traction with a broken back. Rick found himself with a lot of time to think deeply about his life, something for which the 13 years of his education had not prepared him. Only 2 weeks after, he was dismissed from the hospital. He returned home one afternoon to find his mother lying semi-conscious on the floor from an overdose of sleeping pills. Rick confronted once again the inadequacy of his formal education in preparing him to deal with the social and emotional issues of his life. During the following months, Rick began to formulate an idea, the development of a course that would equip students with high self-esteem, relationship skills, and conflict management skills. As Rick began to research what such a course should contain, he ran across a study by the National Institute of Education in which 1,000 30-year-olds had been asked if they felt their high school education had equipped them with the skills they needed for the real world. Over 80% responded, quote, absolutely not. These 30-year-olds were also asked what skills they now wish they had been taught. The top answers were relationship skills. How to get along better with the people you live with. How to find and keep a job. How to handle conflict. How to be a good parent. How to understand the normal development of a child. How to handle financial management. And how to intuit the meaning of life. Inspired by his vision of creating a class that might teach these things, Rick dropped out of college and set across the country to interview high school students. In his quest for information on what would be best to be included in the course, he asked over 2,000 students in 120 high schools the same two questions. One, if you were to develop a program for your high school to help you cope with what you're meeting now and what you think you'll be meeting in the future, what would that program include? 2, list the top 10 problems in your life that you wish were dealt with better at home and in school. Whether the students were from wealthy private schools or inner city ghettos, rural or suburban, the answers were surprisingly the same. Loneliness and not liking themselves topped the list of problems. In addition, they had the same list of skills they wished they were taught as the ones compiled by the 30-year-olds. Rick slept in his car for 2 months, living on a total of $60. Most days he ate peanut butter on crackers. Some days he didn't eat at all. Rick had few resources, but he was committed to his dream. His next step was to make a list of the nation's top educators and leaders in counseling and psychology. He set out to visit everyone on his list to ask for their expertise and support. While they were impressed with his approach, asking students directly what they wanted to learn, they offered little help. Quote, you're too young. Go back to college. Get your degree. Go to graduate school. Then you can pursue this, end quote. They were less than encouraging. Yet Rick persisted. By the time he turned 20, he had sold his car, his clothes, had borrowed from friends, and was $32,000 in debt. Someone suggested he go to a foundation and ask for money. His first appointment at a local foundation was a huge disappointment. As he walked into the office, Rick was literally shaking with fear. The vice president of the foundation was a huge, dark-haired man with a cold, stern face. For a half hour, he sat without uttering a word while Rick poured his heart out about his mother, the 2,000 kids, and plans for a new kind of course for high school kids. When he was through, the vice president pushed up a stack of folders. He said, son, I've been here for nearly 20 years. We've funded all these education programs, and they all fail. Yours will too. The reasons? They're obvious. You're 20 years old. You have no experience, no money, no college degree, nothing. Exclamation mark, end quote. As he left the foundation office, Rick vowed to prove this man wrong. Rick began a study of which foundations were interested in funding projects for teenagers. He then spent months writing grant proposals. Okay, so this goes along with what I was talking. I'm talking off the book here real quick. This is what I was saying last time. On the last fulfillment summary intro, I was talking about how you don't want to tell people what you want to do. You just keep it between you and your higher power. And the mistakes that Rick was making, he's 20 years old in this, so he hasn't had a whole lot of life experience beating him down. Only 20 years. Instead of 40 or 50. So, he could come back from it. I mean, he's not focusing on the right things. He has great intentions here of wanting to help people. And he's not going about it in the best ways. Very briefly, I'm going to sum up the mistakes that he's been making here for you before I get back to the book, okay? The things that he wants to focus on, like I was saying in the last fulfillment summary intro, is not himself becoming more ethnocentric. He's being too egocentric. How can I get help? How can I make this happen? He wants to focus more on how the universe is going to help him, or whatever you want to call God is going to help him. With gratitude, feelings of passion in his heart. He wants to be feeling, okay, you don't have to be living on peanut butter. He's making himself suffer. You don't have to be living on peanut butter and crackers. It's easy to get free food today. And he was lonely and depressed a lot. He's not talking to the right people. Okay, he's trying to do it. He's talking to better people, talking in better ways. He's learning. Okay, he's getting there. This is a long story with a positive ending, so he figures it out. All right, let's get back to the book now and see what he did. Just remember, before I do that where your focus goes, your energy flows. If you're focusing on your loneliness and eating crackers and peanut butter, then that's not going to help. Selling your clothes is not going to help. Just give your stuff away. It's hard to explain. Very briefly. I'm just going to get back to the book. Okay? I'm just going to get back to the book right now. As Rick left the foundation office, Rick vowed to prove this man wrong, who said, you're 20 years, you have no experience, no money, no college degree, nothing. Who cares about a stupid college degree? The college degree doesn't really mean anything. It's all about the feeling in your heart and the energy that you have. Your focus. Your focus on the outcome that you want. And talking to the right people in the best ways. Okay, so as Rick left the foundation office, he vowed to prove this man wrong. Rick began a study of which foundations were interested in funding projects for teenagers. So, okay, there is good things, a lot of good things can come, I'm talking off the book, there's a lot of good things that can come from wanting to prove people wrong. That's egocentric. Wanting to prove people wrong is egocentric. However, it involves your courage, it gets you going. You may have heard me talk about how courage is the beginning of everything. It's good. The courage. You have to get the courage to do it. And then once it's happening, once you get some good outcomes, you can focus on those and continue with what's working. Okay, here we go. Back to the book now. Rick vowed to prove this man wrong. He began a study of which foundations were interested in funding projects for teenagers. See, he's looking for the right people. He's looking for the right people to help him. That's great. That's perfect. He then spent months writing grant proposals. Well, that's one approach. That's using a little too much force. Okay, I think you can tell when I'm talking off the book, can't you? All right. I would recommend, instead of spending months writing grant proposals, looking for better people. Go and talk with the better people. Like in the last Ask stories that we just read, that we just did, okay? Find the better people, like that little kid, like Tommy, like little Tommy. Find the better people. Remember what Tommy did? Tommy's like second goal on his top 9 goals, talking off the book here obviously, this like second goal on his top 9 goals were to contact leaders. Something like that. Wasn't it? Let me look back. It's his last story. Let me look at it real quick, okay? Here it is. Goal number 5, get address of leaders. Leaders. Not people who are, you're swimming upstream, struggling, trying to get help no, leaders. Look for the leaders. Tommy had it right. Tommy was like 9 years old, 8 years old, and he had it right. Tommy had it right. Find the leaders. All right, back to the book. The influencers. I was talking about the ripple effect, okay? When you have the ability from this, okay, I'm talking off the book, obviously. When you have the ability from the positive feelings that you're maintaining in your heart and focusing on the outcomes that you want, and you bring that to the table. Now, if he did that when he was talking to this other guy, he might have had a different outcome. If he felt like that, when he was talking to this first guy, he might have had a better outcome. All right. But when you have only good feelings in your heart and you know that it's all happening for you, and then you go to the highest people up that you can find, not the pencil pushers, not the paper pushers, the people at the top, and then you ask them for what you want. That's how you do it. Okay. Not spending months. He's forcing it. Spending months. Okay. He spent months. Back to the book. Rick spent months writing grant proposals, working from early morning until late. So he's trying to force it too much. From early morning until late at night. He's not in his flow. He's not doing what he likes. Wouldn't it be a lot more fun to talk to the people at the top with passion in your heart of how you're going to help people? Okay. Rick worked for over a year. Wow. He's really pushing it here. Really struggling. Rick began to study. Rick vowed to prove this man wrong. He began a study of which foundations were interested in funding projects for teenagers. He then spent months writing grant proposals, working from early morning until late at night. Rick worked for over a year laboriously writing grant proposals, each one carefully tailored to the interests and requirements of the individual foundations. Well, there's a lot of good to be said about that. He's writing, using his muscle memory, getting it instilled into him of what he wants. With all these grant proposals, he's writing it. If he's handwriting it, then it's like using the muscles and to help to put it in your brain to get the whatever. Okay, I'm not going to talk about that right now. Rick worked for over a year, laboriously writing grant proposals, each one carefully tailored to the interests and requirements of the individual foundations. Each one went out with high hopes, and each one came back rejected. You know why they were rejected? Talking up the book? Because he was focusing on the bad. He was focusing on all. He was spending too much time focusing on the bad stuff in his life. And he got it. He was expecting them to be rejected, so they were. All right. He was thinking, well, what if this gets rejected? I hope this doesn't get rejected. Rejected. He kept saying that to himself, and then that's what happened. That's how the universe works. Back to the book. Proposal after proposal was sent out and rejected. Finally, after the 155th grant proposal had been turned down, all of Rick's support began to crumble. Rick's parents were begging him to go back to college, and Ken Green, an educator who had left his job, to help Rick write proposals said, "Rick, I have no money left and I have a wife and kids to support. I'll wait for one more proposal. If it's a turn down, I'll have to go back to Toledo to teach writing." Rick had one last chance, activated by desperation and conviction. No, it's not. Desperation is not going to help you. Well, maybe there's a good outcome here. See, you get more of what you feel. If you're feeling desperation, you're going to get more desperation. I don't like the way this is worded. Well, this is what it says. Acting by desperation and conviction, he managed to talk himself past several secretaries, and he secured a lunch date with Dr. Russ Malby, president of the Kellogg Foundation. On their way to lunch, they passed an ice cream stand. Malby asked, "Would you like one?" Rick nodded, but his anxiety got the better of him. He crushed the cone in his hand, and with chocolate ice cream running between his fingers, he made a frantic effort to shake it loose before Dr. Malby could note what had happened. But Malby did see it and bursted into laughter. He went back to the vendor and brought Rick a bunch of paper napkins. Okay, he finally ran into a good person to help him. Thank you. You know. The young man climbed into the car, red-faced and miserable. How could he request funding for a new educational program when he couldn't even handle an ice cream cone? 2 weeks later, Malby phoned. "You asked for $55,000. We're sorry, but the trustees voted against it." Rick felt tears pressing behind his eyes. For 2 years, he had been working for a dream, which would now go down the drain. Malby said, "However, the trustees did vote unanimously to give you $130,000. Ah, yeah. Just keep going, keep going. Keep going. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can." The tears came then. Rick could hardly even stammer out a thank you. Since that time, Rick Little has raised over $100 million to fund his dream. The Quest Skills programs are currently, as of when this book was published in 1993, taught in over 30,000 schools in all 50 states and 32 countries. So the main lesson here is persevere. Persevere. Perseverance pays off. And you get there faster if you don't have feelings of desperation and like stuff like that, okay? You get there much faster if you don't have feelings of desperation and stuff like that. However, persevere. The main lesson here is perseverance. Persevere. Persevere. $3 million kids per year are being taught important life skills because one 19-year-old refused to take, quote, no for an answer. Okay, what I like to say on this is be happy with the no. Be happy with the no. Okay, thank you. Now I can move on to somebody else who cares. Thank you for letting me know real quick. Now I can move on to somebody else who cares. Who's at the top? Who cares? Thank you. Be happy with the no. Staying in your flow. Do what you like. Go. You get there a lot faster when you're happy with the no. Staying in your flow. Doing what you like. Go. And there's something good to be said about going through struggles and hardships. Because then when you do start to get to success, you're kind of like you're like a little pebble in a slingshot. And every time somebody shuts you down, turns you down, breaks you down, you're getting pulled back a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then when you get that breakthrough, when you get the funding, you finally meet the right person, the slingshots let go because you're so grateful now. You have all this gratitude, and now you're flying. You're just like propelled. You're like, wow! You take off. It can't happen. Thank you. And then you go. You're flying now. You're released from all that's holding you back. All that's been holding you back has been released, and now you're taking off. You're flying with gratitude. In 1989, because of the incredible success of Quest, Rick Little expanded his dream and was granted $65 million, the second largest grant ever given in U.S. history, to create, capitalized, the International Youth Foundation. The purpose of this foundation is to identify and expand successful youth programs all over the world. Rick Little's life is a testament to the power of commitment to a high vision, coupled with a willingness to keep on asking until one manifests the dream. Adapted from Peggy Mann. The next story is titled The Magic of Believing. Hey, isn't that the title of a Wayne Dyer book? Is this by Wayne? Oh, this is a really short one. Oh, good. Really short one. I like the short ones. Here it is. The Magic of Believing. I'm not old enough to play baseball or football. I'm not 8 yet. My mom told me when you start baseball, you aren't going to be able to run that fast because you had an operation. I told Mom I wouldn't need to run that fast. When I play baseball, I'll just hit them out of the park. Then I'll be able to walk. That's the whole thing. Edward J. McGrath Jr. Quote, underneath that it says in quotes and capitalized, an exceptional view of life. The next story is titled Glenna's Goal Book. In 1977, I was a single mother. Let me see who's the author. Yep. Glenna Salisbury is the author, okay? In 1977, I was a single mother with 3 young daughters, a house payment, a car payment, and a need to rekindle some dreams. One evening, I attended a seminar and heard a man speak on the IXV=R principle. Imagination mixed with vividness becomes reality. Imagination mixed with vividness becomes reality. The speaker pointed out that the mind thinks in pictures, not in words. And as we vividly picture in our mind what we desire, it will become a reality. This concept struck a chord of creativity in my heart. I knew the biblical truth that the Lord gives us, quote, the desires of our heart, Psalms 37:4. And that's, quote, as a person thinketh in their heart, so are they. I replace man with person and his with their and he with they. Now it works for women too. As a person thinketh in their heart, so are they. Proverbs 23:7. I was determined to take my written prayer list and turn it into pictures. I'm sorry if you think I'm making too big of a deal about that. You know, I'm a very forward-thinking person here. I'm talking off the book, all right? I've learned that all people were originally called man. And then when they discovered that women have a womb, they called them womb with man. Woman, woman, womb man. I don't like to live in the past by calling all people man. I like to be progressive. I'm a visionary. I'm looking toward the future. Okay? Women in 2025, as I'm reading this, and for like the past thousands of years, have been called women. So let's call them women. Okay? Let's just say people, not man now. Let me try to say that again in a better tone. Let's just say people and not man now when it applies to everybody. Don't you think that's a good idea? Sorry about that tangent. As a person thinketh in their heart, so are they. As one thinks in one's heart, so is he or she. How about that for all you grammar people out there being like, oh, they, singular, Let's go with it like that then. As one thinks in one's heart, so is he or she. Let's do she first. As one thinks in one's heart, so is she or he. Please understand, please feel the value in that. That's very valuable. That's a very valuable statement. As you think in your heart, so are you. You are the way you feel. You are the way you feel. You are the way you feel. Let me take a sip of my peace water. Let's say that again. You are the way you feel. Holding my thumb to my index finger, feeling peace. It's the easiest one to hold your finger, your thumb, the easiest finger to hold your thumb to, because peace is supposed to be easy to hold on to. Holding your thumb to your index finger, feel the energy of peace. Holding both of your thumbs to your index fingers, feel the energy of peace running all through you and resting in your heart. Breathing in deep, say to yourself, I am peace. As you think in your heart, that's how you are. The way you feel in your heart is the way you are. I was determined to take my written prayer list and turn it into pictures. I began cutting up old magazines and gathering pictures that depicted the, quote, desires of my heart. I arranged them in an expensive photo album and waited expectantly. I was very specific with my pictures. They included 1, a good-looking man. 2, because she's a woman. 2, a woman, and she's a straight woman. And whatever, it's all fine. It's all good. Whatever you like. 2, a woman in a wedding gown and a man in a tuxedo. She wants to get married for some reason. Look, I'm not going to talk about that right now. 3, bouquets of flowers. I'm a romantic. 4, beautiful diamond jewelry. I rationalized that God loved David and Solomon, and they were 2 of the richest men who ever lived. 5, an island in the sparkling blue Caribbean. 6, a lovely home. 7, new furniture. 8, a woman who had recently become vice president of a large corporation. I was working for a company that had no female officers. I wanted to be the first woman vice president in that company. About 8 weeks later, I was driving down a California freeway, minding my own business at 10:30 in the morning. Suddenly, a gorgeous red and white Cadillac passed me. I looked at the car because it was a beautiful car, and the driver looked at me and smiled, and I smiled back because I always smile. Now, I was in deep trouble. Have you ever done that? I tried to pretend that I hadn't looked. Quote, who, me? Question mark. I didn't look at you! Exclamation mark. He followed me for the next 15 miles. Scared me to death! Exclamation mark. I drove a few miles. He drove a few miles. I parked. He parked. And eventually, I married him! Exclamation mark. All right. There you go. She got what she wanted. How about that? On the first day after our first date, Jim sent me a dozen roses. Then I found out that he had a hobby. His hobby was collecting diamonds, big ones. And he was looking for somebody to decorate. I volunteered! Exclamation mark. We dated for about 2 years, and every Monday morning I received a long-stemmed red rose and a love note from him. I like how she led with "we got married" after being scared to death. I like how she did that. And now she's telling the story. Keeping you interested. About 3 months before we were getting married, Jim said to me, I have found the perfect place to go on our honeymoon. We will go to St. John's Island, down in the Caribbean, however you say it. I laughingly said, I never would have thought of that! Exclamation mark. She likes to use exclamation marks. I did not confess the truth about my picture book until Jim and I had been married for almost a year. It was then that we were moving into our gorgeous new home and furnishing it with the elegant furniture that I had pictured. Jim turned out to be the West Coast wholesale distributor for one of the finest Eastern furniture manufacturers. By the way, the wedding was in Laguna Beach. I love Laguna Beach! I love Laguna Beach. It's one of my favorite places. Recently discovered. I love it. Laguna Beach, California. And included the gown. It says gown. And included the gown and tuxedo as realities. 8 months after I created my dream book, I became the vice president of human resources in the company where I worked. In some sense, this sounds like a fairy tale. It's absolutely true. Jim and I have made many, quote, picture books since we have been married. God has filled our lives with the demonstration of these powerful principles of faith at work. Decide what it is you want in every area of your life. Imagine it vividly. Then act on your desires by actually constructing your personal goal book. Convert your ideas into concrete realities through this simple exercise. There are no impossible dreams. This is all great advice here. Yes, do all of this. There are no impossible dreams. And remember, God has promised to give, I'm just going to go with his here with a capital H, his children the desires of their heart. Glenna Salisbury. God has promised to give you the desires in your heart. Remember that. God has promised to give you the desires in your heart. As long as you feel like they're coming to you, as long as you know, it's all in the knowing. It's about what you know. It's all 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 about what you know. Talking off the book here, it's all about what you know in your heart. The reason why you're here. The reasons why you're here. When you figure that out, you know it. When you trust, know, and go, you're in your flow, yo. Do what you like, go. Do what you like, go. Do what you like, go. The next story is titled, Another Check Mark on the List. One rainy afternoon, an inspired 15-year-old boy named John Goddard sat down at his kitchen table in Los Angeles and wrote 3 words at the top of a yellow pad. Quoted, capitalized first letters, My Life List. Under that heading, he wrote down 127 goals. Since then, he has completed 108 of those goals. Look at the list of Goddard's goals, which appears below. These are not simple or easy goals. They include climbing the world's major mountains, exploring vast waterways, running a mile in 5 minutes, reading the complete works of Shakespeare, and reading the entire Encyclopedia Britannica. Okay. Oh my God. I'm not going to read all these. No. That's boring. That's so... Okay. Why would I'm not going to read all of these. I'm going to read the titles. Explore. Now I represent a bunch of places. Study primitive cultures in the Congo. They're getting a whole bunch of places, okay? And a lot of them are checked. Climb. Mount Everest. A whole bunch of mountains. A bunch of them are checked. Photograph. If you want to see what all, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show these on the video. I'm going to show all of them on the video, okay? And if you're only listening to the audio recording, then you're going to have to get the book, because I'm not going to read them all right now. Photograph. A whole bunch of places. Some of them are checked. Explore underwater, a whole bunch of places, some of them are checked. Visit, a whole bunch of places, some of them are checked. Swim in these places, and they're all checked. Accomplish. Okay, I'm going to read the accomplishments, because that's kind of interesting. Well, there's a whole bunch of accomplishments. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 pages. Okay, this is the whole story, and then it's John Goddard at the bottom, okay? And I'm not going to read all 103 of them. Accomplish. Let's read the accomplishments. I'm going to skim through. I'm not even going to read. I'm not even going to read these. Eagle Scout, submarine, drive a submarine, land on and take off from an aircraft carrier, fly in a blimp, ride an elephant, skydive, 40 feet in full breath. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's like two more pages of goals, okay? And now I'm going to pause my audio recording, and I'm going to show all of these on the video that I'm making while I'm doing this. Okay, you ready to see all these goals? You want to take a screenshot of these if you want or whatever? Okay, here's the first page. All right. You want to take a screenshot and then read them all? Go ahead. Here's the second page. You want to take a screenshot and read them all? Zoom in on it, read them all? Go ahead. You want to take a screenshot of this page, zoom in on it and read them all? Go ahead. You want to take a screenshot of this, zoom in on it and read them all? Go ahead. You want to take a screenshot of this, zoom in on it and read them all? Go ahead. And that's the end of that story. And by the way, since I'm up here, let me show you the book. Chicken Soup for the Soul. This is the first one. The very first one. And now there's like 200 of them or something. However, like 600 of them. I don't know. There's a ton of them. But this is the first one. The one that inspired all hundreds and hundreds of them. The one that was made in 1993. I know that because it says right here, 1993. All right? All right. You like how I made that less boring for you? I hope you do. That's what I do. Next. By the way, this is the very first Chicken Soup for the Soul book that I'm reading here right now. The very first one. There's hundreds and hundreds of them now. By all kinds of different authors on all kinds of different topics and stuff. I got like 20 of them on the shelf over there. Alright. The next story is this was published in 1993. It's the first one published in 1993. Okay? The next story is titled, Look Out, Baby. I'm Your Love Man. And then this is italicized underneath it. It says, it is better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. Whitney Young Jr. So I guess that's a quote by Whitney Young Jr. because this story is by Jack Canfield. Okay, let me read that quote by Whitney Young Jr. again. Let's feel it. Let's really focus on this quote because I think it's pretty good. It's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than have an opportunity and not be prepared. Okay, I'm going to say on that, you know what they say? Luck is simply when preparation meets opportunity. You make your own luck. How do you make your own luck? You own luck. Because you know that it's coming to you. You do what Vishen Lakhiani likes to call bend reality. You're bending reality because you know it's already happening. You know it's already happening. And you're talking to the right people in the right ways. And here it is. Boom, there it is. It happened. It's already done. It's already done. Les Brown likes to say that. He'd like to say it. He's not alive anymore. It's already done. It's already done. And when you read something thousands of times, you feel like it's true. Thousands of times, things I'm referring to is when you feel like it's already done, it's already done. Then it's happening. That's when it's happening. When you feel like it's already done is when it's happening. Hey, Les Brown. Back to the book. Les Brown and his twin brother were adopted by Mamie Brown, a kitchen worker and maid, shortly after their birth in a poverty-stricken Miami neighborhood. Because of his hyperactivity and nonstop jabber, Les was placed in special education classes for the learning disabled in grade school and throughout high school. Upon graduation, he became a city sanitation worker in Miami Beach. He had a dream of being a disc jockey. At night, he would take a transistor radio to bed, where he listened to the local jive-talking DJs. He created an imaginary radio station in his tiny room, with its torn vinyl flooring. A hairbrush served as his microphone as he practiced his patter, introducing records to his ghost listeners. His mother and brother could hear him through the thin walls and would shout at him to quit flapping his jaws and go to sleep. But Les didn't listen to them. He was wrapped up in his own world, living a dream. One day, Les boldly went to the local radio station during his lunch break from mowing grass for the city. He got into the station manager's office and told him he wanted to be a disc jockey. There you go. Talking to the right people, not the naysayers who are most likely your family. What the heck is up with that? Okay, peace, back to peace, back to peace. I am peace. The manager eyed this disheveled young man in overalls and a straw hat and inquired, quote, "Do you have any background in broadcasting?" Les replied, "No, sir, I don't." "Well, son, I'm afraid we don't have a job for you then." Les thanked him politely and left. The station manager assumed that he had seen the last of this young man. But he underestimated the depth of Les Brown's commitment to his goal. You see, Les had a higher purpose than simply wanting to be a disc jockey. He wanted to buy a nicer house for his adoptive mother, whom he loved deeply. The disc jockey job was merely a step toward his goal. Mammy Brown had taught Les to pursue his dreams, so he felt sure that he would get a job at that radio station in spite of what the station manager had said. And so Les returned to the station every day for a week, asking if there were any job openings. Finally, the station manager gave in and took him on as an errand boy at no pay. At first, he fetched coffee or picked up lunches and dinner for the DJs who could not leave the studio. Eventually, his enthusiasm for their work won him the confidence of the disc jockeys who would send him in their Cadillacs to pick up visiting celebrities such as The Temptations and Diana Ross and the Supremes. Little did any of them know that young Les did not have a driver's license. Les did whatever was asked of him at the station and more. While hanging out with the DJs, he taught himself their hand movements on the control panel. Are they going to tell about how somebody got drunk and then bam? Yeah, I think hopefully if he said somebody the DJ got drunk and that's how he got started. I think. Let's see. He stayed in the control rooms and soaked up whatever he could until they asked him to leave. There you go. Yes. Yes, Les. That's how you do it. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. Ah, nah, nah. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. Go get what you want when you feel it's in your heart and you trust no one. Go. All right. It's all right. It's all right. All right. It's all right. It's all right. He stayed in the control rooms and soaked up whatever he could until they asked him to leave. Then, back in his bedroom at night, he practiced and prepared himself for the opportunity that he knew would present itself. One Saturday afternoon, while Les was at the station, a DJ named Rock was drinking while on the air. Les was the only other person in the building, and he realized that Rock was drinking himself toward trouble. Les stayed close. He walked back and forth in front of the window in Rock's booth. As he prowled, he said to himself, "Drink, Rock, drink." Les was hungry, and he was ready. He would have run down the street for more booze if Rock had asked. When the phone rang, Les pounced on it. It was the station manager, as he knew it would be. Les, this is Mr. Klein. Yes, said Les. I know. Yes, I know. Les, this is Mr. Klein. Yes, said Les. I know. Les, I don't think Rock can finish his program. Yes, sir, I know. Would you call one of the other DJs to come in and take over? Yes, sir, I sure will. Ha ha, this is where it gets good. When Les hung up the telephone, he said to himself, now, he must think I'm crazy. Les did dial the phone, but it wasn't to call in another DJ. He called his mother first and then his girlfriend. Y'all go out on the front porch and turn up the radio because I'm about to come on the air, he said. He waited about 15 minutes before he called the general manager. Mr. Klein, I can't find anybody, Les said. Mr. Klein then asked, young man, do you know how to work the controls in the studio? Yes, sir, replied Les. Les darted into the booth, gently moved Rock aside, and sat down at the turntable. He was ready, and he was hungry. He flipped on the microphone switch and said, look out! This is me, LB, Triple P, Les Brown, your platter playing papa. There were none before me, and there will be none after me. Therefore, that makes me the one and only, young and single, and love to mingle, certified, bona fide, indubitably qualified to bring you satisfaction, a whole lot of action. Look out, baby, I'm your love man. Because of his preparation, Les was ready. He wowed the audience and his general manager from that fateful beginning. Les went on to a successful career in broadcasting, politics, public speaking, and television. To say the least, Les Brown was awesome. I love Les Brown. The story was by Jack Canfield. I want to keep going, all right? This is going to be a long one, all right? I'm feeling good. I'm going to read another one. The next story is titled, Willing to Pay the Price. I like to say, talking off the book, I like to say, have you heard the expression, have your best life? Have your best life? I like to add to that in the beginning, be willing to pay the price every day to have your best life. What's your price? What do you want to do? What is your price to pay every day to have your best life? It depends on what you want to do. We're not talking about money here if you haven't figured that out. We're talking about courage. We're talking about courage. Doing what you don't want to do because you know it's improving you. And when you improve yourself, you improve the world. What is your price? Back to the book. Willing to pay the price. When my wife... Okay, let me see who the author is. Oh, Marianne. I don't know. Jack McCormack. Jack McCormack is the author of this one. When my wife Marianne and I were building our Greens Point Mall hair salon 13 years ago, a Vietnamese fellow would stop by each day to sell us donuts. He spoke hardly any English, but he was always friendly. And through smiles and sign language, we got to know each other. His name was Lei Van Vu. During the day, I don't know, I probably didn't pronounce that right, but that's what it looks like, okay? So that's how I'm going to say it. Lee, L-E, Lei, Lee, Le, whatever. Le, Van Vu. I don't know how I say it, okay? Lei. I'm going with Lei. L-E, I'm saying Lei. Van Vu, whatever. During the day, Lei worked in a bakery, and at night, he and his wife listened to audio tapes to learn English. I later learned that they slept on sacks full of sawdust on the floor of the back room of the bakery. In Vietnam, the Van Vu family was one of the wealthiest in Southeast Asia. They owned almost 1/3 of North Vietnam, including huge huge holdings in industry and real estate. However, after his father was brutally murdered, Lei moved to South Vietnam with his mother, where he went to school and eventually became a lawyer. Like his father before him, Lei prospered. He saw an opportunity to construct buildings to accommodate the ever-expanding American presence in South Vietnam, and soon became one of the most successful builders in the country. I think that alarm is distracting outside, is telling me to stop because it's going on. Okay, there you go. I'm going to finish this story. It's only it's only two and a half pages, okay? I'm almost done, all right? The Van Vu family is huge. They own a lot of stuff. Okay. Including huge holdings in industry and real estate. After his father was brutally murdered, Lei moved to South Vietnam with his mother, where he went to school and eventually became a lawyer. Wow, after Lei's father was brutally murdered, he moved to South Vietnam with his mother, where he went to school and eventually became a lawyer. Like his father before him, Lei prospered. He saw an opportunity to construct buildings to accommodate the ever-expanding American presence in South Vietnam, and soon became one of the most successful builders in the country. Great. On a trip to the north, however, Lei was captured by the North Vietnamese and thrown into prison for 3 years. He escaped by killing 5 soldiers and made his way back to South Vietnam, where he was arrested again. The South Vietnamese government had assumed he was a, quote, plant from the North. After serving time in prison, Lei got out and started a fishing company, eventually becoming the largest canner in South Vietnam. When Lei learned that the U.S. troops and embassy personnel were about to pull out of his country, he made a life-changing decision. He took all the gold he had hoarded, loaded it aboard one of his fishing vessels, and sailed with his wife out to the American ships in the harbor. He then exchanged all his riches for safe passage out of Vietnam to the Philippines, where he and his wife were taken into a refugee camp. After gaining access to the president of the Philippines, Lei convinced him to make one of his boats available for fishing, and Lei was back in business again. Before he left the Philippines 2 years later, en route for America, his ultimate dream, Lei had successfully developed the entire fishing industry in the Philippines. But en route to America, Lei became distraught and depressed about having to start over again with nothing. He wasn't starting over with nothing, talking off the book here, because it's all about what you are. He's become the person who can get what he wants. Once you become the person who can get what you want, you get it. You go get it. You just have to become the person to get what you want. And then you go get it. It doesn't matter if you lose $1 million, lose everything, whatever. Oh, so you have to live in a tent for a week or something like that, a couple of weeks, a month. You just keep enjoying it, loving life, and know that it's coming to you, and then get it. You just get it. Back to the book. You learn from your mistakes and then you get it. You learn from your mistakes and then you get it. Okay, now back to the book. Distraught and depressed about having to start over again. No, you're doing it all wrong. No, you don't want to be distraught and depressed about having to do it all over again. No, that's wrong. No. That's going to make it take longer. When you know it's coming, then you go get it. You go get it. Okay. It's speeding its way to you right now. You know it is. Depressed. Back to the book. His wife tells of how she found him near the railing of the ship, about to jump overboard. Lay, she told him, if you do jump, whatever will become of me? We've been together for so long and through so much. We can do this together. There you go. Thank you for the support. Support. Thank you for the support. If you support me, thank you. Back to the book. It was all the encouragement that Lay Van Vu needed. When he and his wife arrived in Houston in 1972, they were flat broke and spoke no English. In Vietnam, family takes care of family, and Lay and his wife found themselves ensconced in the back room of his cousin's bakery in the Greens Point Mall. We were building our salon just a couple of 100 feet away. Now, as they say, here comes the, quote, message part of this story. Thank you. About time. Thank you. Lay's cousin offered both Lay and his wife jobs in the bakery. After taxes, Lay would take home $175 per week. His wife $125. Their total annual income, in other words, was $15,600. Yay! Further, his cousin offered to sell them the bakery whenever they could come up with a $30,000 down payment. The cousin would finance the remainder with a note for $90,000. Here's what Lay and his wife did. Even with a weekly income of $300, they decided to continue to live in the back room. They kept clean by taking sponge baths for 2 years in the mall's restrooms. For 2 years, their diet consisted almost entirely of bakery goods. Each year, for 2 years, they lived on a total, that's right, a total of $600, saving $30,000 for the down payment. Nice. Lay later explained his reasoning, quote, if we got ourselves an apartment, which we could afford on $300 per week, we'd have to pay the rent. Then, of course, we'd have to buy furniture. Then we'd have to have transportation to and from work. So that meant we'd have to buy a car. Then we'd have to buy gasoline for the car as well as insurance. Then we'd probably want to go places in the car. So that meant we need to buy clothes and toiletries. So I knew that if we got that apartment, we never get our $30,000 together. Yeah, it's the rat race. It's called the rat race that people fall into. because they want to enjoy their life, you know, the way that they're talking off the book, the way that they're programmed, that there's the way to be safe, certainty, too much certainty. Well, if you're saving the money, then you're certain you're going to get it, okay? Back to the book. Now, if you think you've heard everything about Lay, let me tell you, there's more. After he and his wife had saved the $30,000 and bought the bakery, Lay once again sat down with his wife for a serious chat. They still owed $90,000 to his cousin, he said, and as difficult as the past 2 years had been, they had to remain living in that back room for one more year. I'm proud to tell you that in 1 year, my friend and mentor Lay Van Vu and his wife, saving virtually every nickel of profit from the business, paid off the $90,000 note, and in just 3 years owned an extremely profitable business, free and clear. Then, and only then, the Van Voos went out and got their first apartment. To this day, they continue to save on a regular basis, live on an extremely small percentage of their income, and, this day being 1993, and of course always pay cash for any of their purchases. Do you think that Lay Van Vu is a millionaire today? I am happy to tell you, many times over, John McCormack. Everybody Has a Dream is where I'll begin the next reading on page 204. I have a dream.
Chicken Soup for the Soul, reading number 11, is coming right up. Influence, health, compassion, and gratitude.
Influence, health, compassion, gratitude.
The four most powerful words.
Influence, health, compassion, gratitude.
Obvious as words like peace, love, and joy. The words that we speak
and think
are very powerful labels that we choose to place on ourselves and others. These labels have incredible power to shape our perceptions and our experiences. The words we choose can influence how we see ourselves and others.
Yep.
Words influence our emotional responses.
Yep.
And
Yep.
our emotions control everything that happens in our lives. The words we choose can even impact our physiological stress levels.